Don't worry. I'd like to. I like to remember. Well, thank you. This is good.
Nice to meet you.
Good morning.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Right.
Oh yes, you're right.
Yeah.
But you know, in my country, it is a little earlier.
Yeah. Could you introduce yourself just briefly and for our audience? And
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
My name is Peter Femfert, and I'm German, and I live in Frankfurt, but I live between Frankfurt and Tuscany in Italy, because first of all, I was married a long time ago, very pretty young Venetian girl, and then we bought 41 years ago a wine estate in Tuscany between Florence and Siena. And to develop this wine estate, I had to travel a lot between Frankfurt in Germany and Tuscany, up and down and up and down. About twice a month, sometimes even 3 times a month, I went down to control and to work there over the weekend. And in Frankfurt, I have a gallery, which I founded in 1979. It's a long time ago, and I still run the company, the gallery, because first of all, I have a very exciting job. And I think it's a privilege for me to be able, at my age, to be able to continue to work. So I'm very happy that because I'm not getting older. I'm staying, I'm still alive, and I travel. I came.
You and your wife decided to buy the winery in Tuscany. Could you tell me the region?
It's between Florence and Siena.
Yeah.
Florence in the north and Siena, it's about 80 kilometers, and right in the middle near Castellina in Chianti, we bought this winery. And at that time it had only a very small vineyard, and we didn't know anything about it. It was only that the house and the situation and the position of the house was absolutely beautiful. It was incredible. It's on a hill, we overlook the mountains, and we have forests around, and it's rather large. We have 120 hectares. But the house is very old. It is about 1,000 years old, and in 1530 it belonged to Michelangelo, the famous Michelangelo, who bought the whole valley at that time with 4 different houses as an investment. I don't think he ever went there personally, but he bought it as an investment. He was living and working in Rome, painting the Sixtina, the chapel. He bought this for him. It was his nephew, Leonardo Buonarroti, who controlled the investments of Michelangelo in the Tuscan region. And there's a letter from Michelangelo to his nephew Leonardo, where he asked him to send the wine of Nitardi to Rome, because Michelangelo wanted to make a guinea present to the Pope. Quite a nice story.
Is it usual the winery, Michelangelo give wine to Pope?
Yes, exactly. It was the wine of Michelangelo, and Michelangelo was employed by the Pope to paint in Rome, so he gave a present of his own wine, which is quite nice. I did the same, by the way, about 10 years ago, even longer. I gave a case of the wine which is called Nitardi, which is a super Tuscan we produce in the southern part of Toscana.
Maremma, right?
Maremma, yes, exactly. I gave to Benedictus, the German Pope, writing him the story in a letter, writing the story of Nitardi from 1100 or more than 1,000 years ago to now, and that when we bought it and etc. All this, and Michelangelo, and I sent him a box of our wine Nitardi, and he received it and he was very happy, and he answered with a handwritten Christmas card to my wife and to me, and a letter, of course.
Oh, great.
We're very honored and very nice. Yeah.
Do you still have all the documentaries about Michelangelo? Yeah. Letters from the nephew or?
The originals are in the museum. We don't have the originals.
Which museum?
In Florence.
In Florence.
There's a museum in Florence. We have a copy of a donation document from 1183, when Nitardi, which was called at that time Villa Nectardei, this is the old name Nectardei, we have a copy framed on the wall. Also, we have the letter we wrote to Benedictus, and we have his original Christmas card he sent us. You can see that.
Was it the reason for you and your wife to buy the wineries?
We didn't know when we bought the wine estate.
Really?
No, we didn't know. It was later we discovered this by fortune.
When you buy winery in 1981?
Yes, 82,
maybe.
81.
At that time, the Chianti wine, in terms of quality, is not so good, right?
No, you're right. The Chianti wine went down. It wasn't so good because there was lack of investment. The people were very poor. Where at that time in the 70s, in the 80s it was getting better, and then people discovered that the region of Chianti Classico is a very good region to making wine. The soil is excellent, the position is excellent, the climate was at that time fantastic, and there were some investments from people, from foreigners and from Milan, people from Milano and from Rome, wealthy Italians also, who invested in wine estates. And it was a good success because the region is very interesting to make wine. We have a fantastic grape variety which is called Sangiovese, and you can make fantastic wines with Sangiovese. It's very interesting. We do good marketing. We have the Consorzio Chianti Classico who is doing good marketing, and together with the wine estates, and bring the wine to success, I think.
Could you tell me more about Sangiovese?
Sangiovese is a local grape, mainly in Tuscany. It has a little bit also in Emilia-Romagna, and it is it's a grape which is not easy to grow because it needs good climate, and we are biological, by the way. We finished with any chemicals. We don't do anything. We are 100% biological certified. We have one wine which is 100% Sangiovese, which is our wine called Casanova di Nitardi, because we have a second house which is called Casanova, and Casanova means the new house in Italian. It's only 600 years old in comparison to the main house, which is over 1,000 years. And Casanova di Nitardi is 100% Sangiovese, and this is the wine which we decorate with different label every year for 40 years now. We ask important artists in the world 2 paintings, one for the label and one for the wrapping paper, because each bottle is wrapped up in the wrapping paper. We have had one Korean, by the way, Kim Chang-yeol, famous Korean artist who was a very nice man. I met him several times in Paris and also here. He lived between Paris and Korea and Seoul. Met him, and he made the label for 1 year. And Yoko Ono, the widow of John Lennon, for instance, made, or Hundertwasser, or Dario Fo, Nobel Prize winner for literature, or Günter Grass, also Nobel Prize winner for literature, made the label. And many artists, very famous ones. And we only give them the size we want, the proportion of the size, that's all. And they have to do whatever they want. We don't restrict the content of the paintings.
How did you pay for painting?
We don't pay with money, we pay with wine, of course. They get several cases of their wine, of the wine of their vintage, of course. And they're very happy because the wine is quite good.
And then every year you change the artist,
Yes.
And then how do you select the artist?
When we began 1981 with the first label, I had to beg an artist to make a label. But over the years, the situation has changed, and the artists come towards me and ask me, can I make a label, please, for Nitardi? And I say, yes, you can, but there's a waiting list already. There's a waiting list quite long. I'd like to do another label for a Korean artist, by the way. But it should be a well-known and famous one. So also like to exhibit him in Frankfurt, in my gallery one day.
And then, is there any other Korean you remember?
We have a Korean lady artist, Mrs. Kim, and we have exhibited her twice in Frankfurt already with big success. And we will show her also in Kiev. We are sure that we will sell quite well.
And you were making your wine labels by artists. Is it impacted by Mouton Rothschild? Or?
When we bought Nitardi, we had 15,000 bottles, the first harvest, and I had no idea how to sell. I had no experience. I was a consumer and not a wine producer at that time. So I had, what shall we do with this? And since I had a gallery, I said, why not ask one of my artists, Bruno Bruni, his name is, and we asked him, Bruno, will you make a label for us? And he said, yes, of course. And he made a label, beautiful label, the first one. And the first wrapping paper we had was printed from the stone in a lithograph studio, piece by piece, hand by hand. So he, in principle, had the idea that we wrap up the paper, the bottle in another painting of the artist. It was quite a good idea. And friends say that the difference between Nitardi and Mouton Rothschild is that Nitardi has a wrapping paper.
In terms of wine, you produce the 100% Sangiovese and then blending wine from Maremma.
Yeah,
and
we do 6 wines altogether, 6 different wines. 1 white wine in Maremma, 100% Vermentino, which is a very successful wine. This is an invention my son Leon and myself started, and it's called Ben because a family call their last baby they have, the youngest one, it's 100% Vermentino and it's very, very fresh. And then we make 3 different Chianti Classico. An invention of my son Leon. When he took over, he created this wine which is called Bel Canto. It is my favorite wine at the moment. And the top Chianti Classico we produce is our Riserva Nitardi Selezionata. And it's about 95% Sangiovese and 5% Merlot. This is a wine which had several times the 3 glasses in Gambaro Rosso and also 97, 98 points out of 100. So it's quite a high level. In Maremma we also do 2 red wines, Ad Astra, which is approximately 50% Sangiovese because we would like to have a Tuscan family. Belongs to the Tuscan family, Ad Astra, and the other grapes we use is Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Syrah. It makes it. It's not very expensive wine. It's a easy drinking wine, quite successful. We have a little difficulties now not to achieve 15% alcohol because of the climate change, the warmness in the region, in the whole world, not only in Tuscany. We have to harvest earlier to keep alcohol at a reasonable level, and we have to work hard in the vineyard and in the cellar to come out with a wine which is maximum 14.5 degrees.
I believe the Sangiovese is very going well with the food, especially food based on the tomato or something. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, this kind of red wine which has power, but at the same time it has a certain fluidity. It's soft. It's not harsh.
What about matching with the Korean food? Have you tasted?
Oh yes, I like kimchi, and I'm a half vegetarian. I don't eat meat anymore. For fish, I like a red wine. I drink red wine for fish, but not the most powerful one. So the lighter ones. And I like Korean food very much.
Kimchi and any
Everything.
Art and wine for business, which is more attractive?
Well, I am in the lucky situation that I have 2 of the most beautiful and most exciting and most interesting activities you can have. because dealing with beautiful paintings like the Chagall painting we have on our stand is a privilege. It's something very special. Selling a good piece, an important piece of Nam Myoung Paik is a privilege. And I know many of the artists, of course, personally, those who have not passed away yet. Unfortunately, some have passed away during my 44 years of gallerist, and I miss them. But we have good friendships with many of the artists, and the same with wine. To work in a vineyard and to create from the grape a wine which tastes and gives joy to people is fantastic. It's a privilege to do something like this. And I'm in the fortunate situation, even that it was stressful sometimes, to do both. And it was tiring also. But you see, I'm still doing well, and I hope to continue. I stepped down, of course. I'm not managing the winery anymore. It's my son who does it, and he does a fantastic job. He's very happy. I have stepped down or up, I don't know, to become senior consultant.
Do you still work for vineyard?
No, I don't work in the vineyard anymore. No. But my son, sometimes when there are big investments to do, or sometimes when he's not so sure, he calls me and says, "What do you think? What should I do?" And I said, "What do you want to do?" I ask him. And then I said, "Okay, you do what you want to do. You do what you decide. That's okay." And I do, of course, tell him my opinion, naturally.
Between wine and art, any other things in common, like similarity?
You must understand, wine is culture and art is culture also. 3 years ago, I had a conference at the World Knowledge Forum here in Seoul, and the title of my conference was Art Will Save the World, because I do believe that art is so important to our culture that it will really save the world on long term. We need art to develop ourselves. And wine estate, you must like it, you must be convinced that you would like to live there, to be there. You should not only think of the investment. Of course, I was lucky because at that time when I bought the Tuscan wines were low, the demand was not so high, and I was able to get Nitardi for a reasonable price. Now, over the years, it has developed very well, and I think I would not like to sell it. Try to inherit it to the next generation and hope that the next generation will also inherit to the next ones, etc. It's too beautiful to sell it. The same with pieces of art. I would keep it.
Was there any other thing making you heart beat other things? Yeah, not only wine and art.
Well, my wife, my family, of course.
Maybe you invested a lot in 1980s when first time you bought the wineries, and then how much did you invest for your wineries at the moment? Nitardi.
You mean in money?
Yeah.
No, it's not in money. You invest in heart and power and force and brain.
It seemed to be a very hard time, right?
Well, there were hard times, but the result which comes back is so beautiful that you can be happy. In Seoul, it's an exciting city with excellent restaurants, very kind people, and good friends who look after me and are so friendly and hospitable. Honestly, Korea is one of the great countries in the world, and I'm very proud and very happy to come here. It's been quite interesting to talk to you, sir, and thank you very much. And I say bye-bye to everybody. Bye-bye. It's been very nice to meet you. Thank you very much to have this interview.
Very hard to see you.
And come to Tuscany again.